Hey everyone, I'm back with a new movie review. Today, I will share my thoughts on the newest cinematic interpretation of the King of the Monsters himself, Godzilla. Seeing as how monster movies are one of my life's biggest obsessions, I assumed naturally that most of you would wonder how I feel about this movie. And I'm gonna have to put it like this: I have very mixed feelings about this movie. There were things about it I really loved, but in contrast, there was about an equal amount of things that really pissed me off. It definitely goes without saying that this is vastly superior to the 1998 Roland Emmerich movie that claimed to be Godzilla, but that's not really saying anything. All the trailers I saw leading up to this movie were very grim, very dark, very ominous, with the musical piece Requiem, composed by Hungarian classic composer George Ligeti, the same piece that was used as the central theme to The Monolith from 2001: A Space Odyssey, and in addition, a very effective use of the audio clip of J. Robert Oppenheimer's speech about death, the destroyer of worlds, and all that. So the marketing was very well done. And I remember some people really bitching up a storm about how they were making Godzilla ultra serious and dark, when really that's kind of how he started out. The main thing about the Godzilla series that most people fail to realize is that most Western audiences have only been exposed to the bastardized localizations of the original Japanese cuts of all these movies. The original 1954 movie Godzilla was heavily altered when it was released in the US in 1956 as Godzilla King of the Monsters. The American studios weren't happy with showing an all-Japanese cast, so they cast an American actor, Raymond Burr, who would be the token white guy who sits there and tells the audience what Godzilla is doing instead of showing it, pretty much treating the audience like complete morons. That's exactly how it was for decades. Monster movies being butchered and embellished with American actors because the studios didn't think that audiences could connect with an all-Asian cast. It wasn't until the new millennium when the original unaltered Japanese language versions of most of these movies became so widely available to the general public. It's no secret now that the original 54 movie was a dark, moody, and tragic film that capitalized on the angst and poverty of post-World War II Japan. The reason why the movie holds up so well is that it just doesn't make a statement of how shitty a condition Japan was in after being ravaged by 2 nuclear bombs. It makes a statement about mankind experimenting with nuclear weapons in general. Its message is contemporary not only for its native time period, but for the modern time period as well. And that's why I believe that the direction that this new movie was going in was actually the right one. It went back to the allegorical nature of the 54 movie. It wasn't so much of a traditional kaiju eiga as it was a disaster film that focuses on the humans and how their lives are affected by the presence of monsters that decimate their cities. But I think this movie only partially succeeds at this. I get that the director, Gareth Edwards, was trying to go for. He wanted the movie to be mainly told from the human's perspective, and he wanted to limit the screen time that the monsters got until the last act of the film, not unlike some classic monster movies like Jaws or Predator. Here's the problem though. 2 problems actually. 1. The human characters are very copy and paste. They are nothing but stereotypes. You have the military people who want to destroy the monsters, and then you have Ken Watanabe's character, Dr. Serizawa, who, by the way, bears no resemblance to the Dr. Sarazawa from the original movie. He isn't a former soldier. He doesn't have an eye patch. He doesn't even create the MacGuffin bioweapon called the Oxygen Destroyer that ultimately kills Godzilla. He's nothing but a stock, superstitious scientist character who was only named Dr. Sarazawa just because they wanted to reference the original movie. Anyways, what I was saying is that you have the military who want to kill the monsters, and you have Watanabe who wants to study the monsters and let them fulfill their natural purposes. And then you have the token American characters. You have Bryan Cranston as the obsessed crackpot conspiracy theorist that no one believes. You have Aaron Taylor Johnston as the soldier character, and you have his wife Elizabeth Olsen, who is, well, just the wife. You see, these characters are so stale and bland. They are nothing but action/disaster/monster movie archetypes. And it's a damn shame, because the acting in this movie is top-notch. The chemistry between all the characters when they interact is very lifelike and natural. It just sucks that they have so little to work with other than the basic traits of their character stereotypes. There's actually a part where Watanabe's character shows an army guy a watch that his dad gave him that implies that there might have been some tension between him and the American military guys because of Hiroshima. But it's never brought up again. That's the closest this movie comes to actually fleshing out one of its characters. The other thing that this movie tries to do that it fails at is the buildup of the monsters. Everyone who has talked about this movie has complained about the way that this movie teases the battle scenes between the monsters. Here's the thing about that. I wouldn't have minded the teases so much if not for one thing. In the first major battle scene in the movie, they set up the appearance of both Godzilla and the evil villain monster known as the Muto. They completely show Godzilla in his entirety during this scene, and then they cut away from the fight, and you never see Godzilla again until the last 30 minutes. You don't do that. In the last act of the movie, they actually build up to Godzilla's appearance again, as if we didn't actually completely see him in the first act of the movie. That is not build-up. It's crappy pacing. One of the most important things to get right in any monster movie, any summer movie, hell, any genre film of any kind, period, is pacing. There needs to be a good balance between the characters, the plot, and the thing that the audience primarily paid money to see. The difference between this movie and a movie like, say, Jaws or Jurassic Park is that once the monsters have appeared, they have a constant presence throughout the rest of the film. They show up from time to time to do something, and then we have a couple scenes where the audience catches their breath, usually with character development or plot development of some kind. It's a tried and true formula that has been subverted here, but not for the better. And the whole teasing thing? Yeah, you know what that reminds me of? The Exorcist. Yeah, the whole idea of setting up this enormous set-piece scene where things are being destroyed and the characters are in great peril, only to transition to a scene where they manage to get out scot-free without actually seeing it? Yeah, it's almost exactly like The Exorcist. I said this before relating to The Exorcist, and I'll say it now about Godzilla. That is spectacularly lazy storytelling. If you're going to set up a massive action sequence, then you better have the capabilities to follow up. Now, inevitably, some people are going to be saying to me, but the old Godzilla movies didn't have much Godzilla in them, they were mostly about the people too. So, allow me to just reinforce my criticisms here. Yes, the older Godzillas did center an awful lot around the people. But here's the difference. When the old Godzilla movies set up a battle scene, They delivered on their promise. They didn't dangle a carrot in front of the audience's face until the last half hour. And speaking of which, that's another thing I have a problem with. I will admit, the final monster battle was pretty goddamn impressive, but it would have been even better if it didn't cut to the humans doing something that was far less interesting. They put in a subplot about how one of the evil monsters stole a nuclear warhead that's on a timer, and that a group of human soldiers who are led by Taylor Johnson's character have to disarm it, amidst the epic battle between Godzilla and the two Mutos. Why was that necessary? I mean, isn't the fact that Godzilla is duking it out with two powerful kaiju suspenseful enough? Okay, time to calm down a bit. I've spent an awful lot of time bitching about this film. But in spite of that, I do not hate it. I really don't. The things that this movie got right, it got amazingly right. The visual effects were absolutely superb. It was a no-brainer that a new American-made Godzilla movie would once again rely on CGI. But I'm happy to say that it's really good CGI. The monsters move very slowly, and when they do actually move fast, they destroy a lot of shit. In the old days of Toho, when they were filming the actors in suits, they would slow the footage down significantly to make the monsters appear big and lumbering. And it really looks as if the CG animators for this film adhered to that philosophy as well. They don't flip around in the air and defy the laws of physics like the Transformers movies do. They move as if they are heavily restricted by gravity, and that's how it should be. The art design for me was also kind of a mixed bag. I think Godzilla himself looks amazing, his redesign was really awesome, and for once they actually got him to look like Godzilla. But the Mutos. The Mutos leave a lot to be desired. To put it bluntly, they are basically slightly reworked versions of the Cloverfield monster, which really disappointed me. I think James Rolfe said it best. When it comes to designing monsters, the Japanese have us beat by kilometers. The Mutos are exactly the type of monster I was hoping to not see in this movie. Music-wise, the film is also great. I love how bombastic the soundtrack is, but I was really let down by the fact that there wasn't a single reference to Akira Ifukube's original Godzilla theme. I will say that the idea for Godzilla in this movie is pretty cool. They really harken back to the Showa era where Godzilla is actually heroic, and they also mix it a little bit with the Heisei Gamera trilogy in that Godzilla is not really a protector of humanity, but a protector of Earth who fights to restore the natural balance. The nuclear bombs didn't actually create Godzilla, they created the Mutos, whose presence awakened Godzilla from his hibernation. Which is a pretty neat twist on the origin story, and among the 60 years worth of Godzilla movies that have taken their own twists on the origin, it definitely stands out, which is no small feat. I was really hoping to see a cameo from one, if not all, of the suit actors who played Godzilla over the decades, like Haruo Nakajima, Kenpachiro Satsuma, or Tsutomu Kitagawa. I did hear that Akira Takarada, who was one of the actors from the original movie and countless other Toho movies, appeared in a deleted scene, so, I mean, I guess that's something? All in all, I think that this movie is okay. It's decent. It's not great, but it's far from bad. And even though I don't think he did it well, I really do respect Gareth Edwards for trying to show restraint and build up to the monsters. It's something that really cannot be said for many other movies that are made these days. And I do recommend seeing this movie, but I don't recommend doing so with really high expectations. Then again, any experienced moviegoer would know that almost no movie lives up to its hype. This has been F.W. Waller, and I am signing out.